Hi, ladies. This is my video response number 6, I think we're up to. And I really connected with both articles that we read this week about how to enact change and kind of get people on board who aren't really willing to change their practices, because this is something we've talked a lot about at my school, with some of the teachers who just really don't want to be a part of any kind of new initiatives or learning more about ways to refine what they're doing in literacy. I think something that really influences your learning as an adult is really kind of where you are in your thinking, whether or not you believe that you're a lifelong learner. Um, they've mentioned in the articles the idea of being reflective and really thinking about what you're doing and how you could make what you're doing better. I think sometimes people don't really want to do that because it's a lot of work and you don't want to admit that, wow, what I was doing maybe isn't the best thing for my students, and I want to rethink the way that I taught that, or the way that I, structure this lesson, or whatever it is. Um, in the Nedzwicki, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. In that article, I think it really, she talked a lot about the idea of autonomy, and that can be something that can, get people to maybe change what they're doing. That, we're all sort of at different points in our teaching careers, in our learning, and so to be able to differentiate that professional development and kind of determine what is it that you need as the teacher, and then how can the coach support that, is really powerful. Because we've all gone to those meetings where you sat there and thought, wow, I really didn't learn anything new today, because either you already knew that information, or that's just not something that was helpful to you at that time. So I thought that was really important, that that's something that can really help you to change your practice, is when you get that freedom to think, well, what is the best thing for me, and what is the best thing for my current group of students. Um, and I think it was really important in the first article when she talked about that, that tension that arises between having to mandate, a curriculum and follow this script of this is what you're teaching and when, and this is what you say, and then also the demands that come with standardized testing, and that can really create sort of this mixed message. If that's your focus, then how can you kind of change your practice, because you're really thinking about, you're just preparing the students to take a test. We've had that conversation in my building a lot, because our superintendent says, oh, testing is not important and you should opt out, and this, that, and the other. And then the scores come back, and then it's like a panic because, well, we didn't do as well on the TDA as we thought we were going to. And then you say, but I thought we didn't care about what happens on the test. So it does create that tension. And I think then sometimes people are resistant to that change. I thought it was really interesting when they mentioned about, sometimes people don't want to change because they're unaware that they need to. And that, I think, can be really interesting, because if you're not able to be introspective and think about what it is that you're doing and how did my students receive that, and if you're not really at that point and you don't think that there's other better things out there, you think the way you're doing everything is great, then yeah, you're not going to want to change your practice because you don't see the need to. And so I think that's really important, that the coach can kind of help you get to that point where you would say, I don't love the way that I do this, and maybe there's something better out there that I could be doing. Um, I think, it's just really difficult to get people to want to change, because when you're in that comfort zone and you've been doing this a certain way for however many years, you don't want to you don't want to change necessarily. You don't want to maybe put in the work that's required to do that. And I think, not every teacher, unfortunately, considers themselves to be a lifelong learner. So they kind of feel like their development is pretty good where it is, and they don't really see the need to continue to learn. or continue to advance their thinking and reflect and be able to look back and change their practices as a result of either some new learning or a conversation with the coach. I think also people will be resistant to change. They mentioned in one of the articles about, if your principal is sort of misusing the coach and the coaching role and saying, okay, you need to, you know, report back to me and let me know how this person is doing, and kind of puts that coach in that awkward kind of evaluative role, which they really shouldn't be doing. And yeah, then you kind of get into this, well, I'm not changing because, you don't want to feel like you're being challenged or feel like you're being told that, something's broken and you need to fix it. So I think, it's a really important topic to consider and to think about, but I think there's a lot of things that, make it difficult, especially if you're in that coaching role, to figure out, okay, how are we going to get people to change this? How are we going to keep, moving forward when we are faced with all these pressures and demands and these tensions, and, there's new curriculum and there's new things coming at you all the time. And, you're just not really sure, what it is that you're supposed to be doing. So I don't, know necessarily if the coach is always going to be able to. In fact, they mentioned in the article, using quotations, the idea of fixing a teacher. You're not going to be able to get everybody on board with you and changing their practice, but the more that you can kind of show people, hey, why don't you consider this? Or have you ever thought about this? And kind of ease into it. It goes back to, a common theme in all of our readings about building that trust and building that relationship, that maybe you can help to make little changes that hopefully will ultimately lead to a bigger, shift in thinking or a change in philosophy that will help the teachers, and by then, as well be able to help the students.